What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our Big Ten football channel. The Big Ten didn't lose a whole lot of quarterback production from 2019. Most of the starting quarterbacks are back heading into this season. You lost Brian Lewerke at Michigan State, Shea Patterson, Michigan, Nate Stanley, Iowa. Those are really the main three quarterbacks that are gone from the Big Ten. And there's plenty of quarterback talent returning. I think some of these teams are just a quarterback away from really taking a big step forward as a program. But we're going to give you our top 10 quarterbacks for this upcoming 2020 college football season. Not necessarily just looking at what these guys have done in the past, but predicting who is going to be the best in 2020, who's going to have the biggest season statistically, who's going to mean the most to their team, who's got the most talent. We're combining all of that to put this together. So we start with number 10. And number 10 is Spencer Petras of Iowa. All right, he's been waiting in the wings. Had a couple of years to sit back, watch, learn from Nate Stanley. He's not done much. 6 for 10, 25 yards, the number 19 pro-style quarterback in the 2018 class. But this is Iowa, and we know they're not going to ask him to do a whole lot. And they don't at Iowa. You just play good defense, run the football. That's the main thing. Nate Stanley probably threw it more than we had seen in a while from an Iowa quarterback. But I think Petras has the talent. I think he's going to step in there. I think that time to learn the system and all that is going to bode well for him. And I think he's going to wind up having a pretty good year this year. So he's going to make it into our top 10 at number 10. Number 9 is Brandon Peters of Illinois. Brandon Peters, of course, played at Michigan, left Michigan, goes to Illinois last year. Had a pretty good year. He wasn't great. Threw for over 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, only a 55% completion percentage. Probably need to bring that up a little bit this year. 213 yards on the ground as well. Not really a runner, but he can run it when he needs to. Had 3 touchdowns there. Illinois surprised a lot of people last year. I think Brandon Peters was a big part of that. He was pretty consistent there at that quarterback spot. Again, only 8 interceptions, only 18 touchdowns. So he didn't have to, he didn't really go out and win them a bunch of football games, but he played pretty solid for them. And I think he'll do the same in 2020, probably get a little bit better. And I think you'll see those numbers improve a little bit as well. Let's go to number 8. This one is interesting. Okay, we've got Dylan McCaffrey here at number 8, but you could insert Joe Milton. Whoever winds up winning the starting job at Michigan, I went with McCaffrey just because he's got a little bit more experience and because he was the number 2 quarterback last year. But a lot of people think Joe Milton will wind up winning that starting job at Michigan. Again, you see he hasn't done a whole lot. 10 of 20, 116 yards. He was the number 5 pro-style quarterback in the 2017 class, so he was a pretty high recruit. We've seen him play a little bit and can run the ball as well. I know he's listed there as a pro-style quarterback, but he's got some pretty good speed, can run the ball. I think probably a better runner than Milton. Milton probably has the better arm. It's going to be really interesting to see who wins that quarterback battle. But regardless, the talent is there around him, and I think Michigan will get that offense going pretty well this year, and I think their quarterback will have a pretty solid year, whoever it winds up being. Number 7, we've got Peyton Ramsey, transfer from Indiana. Last year at Indiana, threw for over 2,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 68% completion percentage, 252 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns. How many times is he going to bail them out? He was in there. Really not the starter from even his freshman year. He came in, wound up winning that job. I know they had Michael Penix last year. He was the starter. Peyton Ramsey wound up coming in when he got hurt, and he won them a lot of ball games. He was very big for Indiana, but he wasn't going to sit back and not be the starter any longer. So he goes to Northwestern, a place where he should be the starter. Maybe not the most talented quarterback on the roster. You got Hunter Johnson there, but I think he will win that starting job, and I think he's going to have a really good year. But because Michael Penix kept beating him out for the number 1 spot, we're going to put him ahead of Peyton Ramsey. It's definitely debatable on who is the better quarterback of these two. You look at last year, he threw for almost 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 69% completion percentage, 119 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. A little bit better runner. Both guys can actually run the ball, but he was injured, and he's had injury problems, and because of that, he hasn't been able to really explode. But this is a very talented quarterback. I'm telling you, if he can stay healthy, Indiana is a team to watch out for. Now, they're not going to win the Big Ten, I don't think, but they could really make some noise. They surprised a lot of people last year, And again, if he could stay healthy, look for him to potentially have a big year. And injuries, a problem for Adrian Martinez as well. This is a guy that I thought would probably be the second or third best quarterback in the Big Ten last year. His numbers actually went down. They went down pretty drastically as well. He didn't even throw for 2,000 yards. 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a 59% completion percentage. Those numbers, again, were down from his freshman year in 2018. He did a pretty good job on the ground, or pretty similar, I should say, to what he did in 2018. Had 626 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. But he was a big disappointment. Nebraska as a team was a big disappointment. This is a team that I had really high hopes for last year. It just didn't work out. Injuries, again, I think a big part of why Martinez struggled last year. If he can stay healthy, he's got the talent, he's got the system, the coach. He's got a lot of things going for him to where he could be maybe number 2 on this list at the end of the season. But we're going to put it number 5 just because I'm not going to overhype him like maybe I did last year. Number 4, though, is Sean Clifford. 2019, he threw for over 2,600 yards, 23 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a 59% completion percentage. Also had 402 rushing yards. Not the greatest runner, but I tell you what, he's gutsy. He is a gritty quarterback. Reminds me a lot, and I'm not saying he's going to have the type season as Joe Burrow, but his style reminds me of Joe Burrow. He's a tough kid, stands in there, makes the throws, and can run when he needs to. And also his numbers last year were very similar to Joe Burrow's his junior year. Could Sean Clifford maybe make a big jump? He's not going to make that kind of jump because LSU changed their offense and had a lot more talent around Joe Burrow. But Sean Clifford, I think, could make a big jump this year and really improve. At number 3, we're going to go with Jack Coan of Wisconsin. Last year threw for over 2,700 yards. And again, this was with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a 70% completion percentage, a 151.8 passer rating. He had Jonathan Taylor in the backfield last year, which you could say helped him because it took the pressure off of him. But at the same time, you could look ahead to this year and say they're not going to have Taylor back there, and he's going to have to do a little bit more, so his numbers could actually go up. But I just love his efficiency. Again, only 5 interceptions, a 70% completion percentage. He surprised me, and I think he's a big reason why Wisconsin had the success that they had last year. This was a team that I thought was going to maybe struggle a little bit last season, but he came in and played really well for them, and I think he'll do it again in 2019. Again, those numbers could go up because they're going to be throwing the football more than likely. Tanner Morgan at number 2 of Minnesota wasn't even going to be the starter. Wound up getting that starting job because of an injury, and he made the most of it. Over 3,200 yards passing last season, 30 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions, a 66% completion percentage, a 178.7 passer rating, which is very high. He was a big part of Minnesota's success. I don't think many people saw Minnesota doing what they did last year. It was not just Tanner Morgan. Their defense was played really well. Their offensive line was really good. I mean, they all around Tanner Morgan, they played really well. But he stepped up in a big way, and I think he's the second best quarterback in the Big Ten, or will be the second best quarterback in the Big Ten in 2020. Look for those numbers to be similar or maybe even better this upcoming season. But number 1, it's not even close. It's Justin Fields. He threw for over 3,200 yards last season, 41 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, a 67% completion percentage. Plus, he can do what he does on the ground, 484 yards, rushing, 10 touchdowns. Actually ran the ball less than I thought he would. I thought they would use him as a runner more in 2019, but they really, I think, tried to protect him. Of course, he had that one injury, but he can run the football with the best of them, and he can throw it. And just the decision making, I was blown away by Justin Fields last year. I knew he had the talent, but without the experience, I didn't expect him to play that efficiently. He did, and I think you can make the argument that he might be the best quarterback in the country heading into 2020. So those are our top 10 quarterbacks of the Big Ten. Maryland, they were left off this list. You got Josh Jackson there. Maybe he can kind of get things turned around. He's the guy that I think could have potential to make this list. Purdue, whoever winds up winning the starting job there, they're going to have a lot of talent around them, could potentially put up some big numbers. So those are a couple of teams where they didn't quite make the cut, but I considered them. It was that number 10 spot was really close for me. I just went with Iowa and their starting quarterback just because they're the more consistent program. But don't be surprised at all to see someone else maybe jump onto this list by the end of the season. But this is just kind of our best guess at it. for this upcoming 2020 college football season. What do you think about this list? I'm sure there's going to be plenty of debate, and I want to know what you disagree with. So let me know down in the comments below. Leave your comments. What would you change? Leave your top 10, I should say. How would you rank them? Feel free to do that as well. Thank you guys for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel.